Okay, so to make our mermaid topper, I'm gonna insert a long cake pop stick into a foam base, kind of keep it stable while I'm working. And I'm gonna cut a little piece of the 12 gauge anodized floral wire that I like to use. You can get this on Amazon, and I use it for like everything. Straighten out part of this, tape a good portion of it. This is gonna support the tail. So I want her to look like she's kind of swimming. So I'm bending the cake pop stick a little bit. You see how I did that? So she's kind of leaning forward. And you could do this all out of wire. So it's kind of the basic look that I want. And now I'm going to build up her tail with a little bit of aluminum foil. And the reason I'm using aluminum foil is because I need this done today. I don't have time to wait for Rice Krispie treats to set up, but you could do this with Rice Krispie treats if you had the time. But aluminum foil is perfectly food safe, so it's not like you have to worry about that. You can make this mermaid as fat or as skinny as you want her to be. This is going to be for my daughter, so I'm kind of trying to shoot for like a baby mermaid. So I'm going for kind of like a little fat body so that it looks like a baby mermaid. But you could give her more of a shape and do like a more grown-up style mermaid in this exact same way, but just altering your shape of your tinfoil. Tinfoil also helps the modeling chocolate have something to kind of grab onto, whereas if it was just the wire, it can get kind of slippery. I don't want to build up too much because the modeling chocolate's going to fill out the rest of the way, but I just don't want to waste a lot of modeling chocolate bulking up the body. So this is where the tail is going to be at, and this is going to be the top of her body, and then her head's going to be up here. So one thing I should have probably done first, it's not too late, cut off some of this tin foil, is I really want her arms to be super secure. So I'm going to take some more of the wire. We're just going to make a nice U shape like this. And don't worry about length just yet, because you can always trim it down. The top is kind of squared off. We're going to secure that onto our stand with the tape and then cover it in a little bit of aluminum foil. Like I said, you can make her skinnier or as fat as you want her to be. Just make sure you put on a good amount of tinfoil tape so that the wire for the arms is nice and secure and doesn't move around. This is called building an armature. I do this for all of my figures. After I've got the arms in, just build up her body just a little bit, and it also helps the arms stay in place. You want the arms to be kind of open wide and saying like, hi, happy birthday. I'm not going to put any tinfoil on the wire because I'm going to use fondant for the body because I want it to be kind of smooth. And that'll make sense later. I'm gonna roll this. So now we're gonna cover in some modeling chocolate. So we're just going to start adding on some green modeling chocolate to the tail. You want it to be a nice transition from the belly to the tip. Modeling tool here. I got this from Michael's in the clay modeling section. I think it's about $4 for a pack of them, and it works great for smoothing out modeling chocolate. This doesn't need to be perfectly smooth. Kind of blend the top seam of the chocolate into the fondant to kind of look like scales that are just gradually going down the body, and kind of try to make it like higher in the top and then go around the belly. So once you have the tail smoothed out to the point where you like the shape, you could do this with fondant, but just keep in mind you're going to have a better finish with the modeling chocolate. I am using a sugar shaper that you could probably use like a cake pop stick, probably do about the same sort of thing, but I like this one because it's kind of at an angle. And what we're going to do is create some scales. This is the mini sugar shaper from Innovative Sugar Works, and this is the soft set. And what we're going to do, starting at the bottom, we're going to make some indentations that just look like that to make her scales. I'm just going to do that all the way, all over the tail. And you can do one side and then the other if that's easier for you. I'm not being super specific, you know, to like make sure that the scales are perfectly overlapping. Just making sure there's a texture. You could also use a straw. Just try not to hold the chocolate in your hand. Hold it by the wire. You see how there's a little shiny spot right there? That's from me touching the chocolate for too long. take one of my sugar shapers and just give her a little belly button. Boop. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of fondant to the back of the head. Make sure that the head is nice and round because it's going to be a short-haired kid. I want to make sure that I build up the back of the head as well as the front of the head. I'm just going to smooth down that kind of edge right there so that when we put the front on, it's easier to blend in. If you find that your fondant's not sticking so good, you can always get the back of it wet a little bit, but it's usually not necessary. It usually sticks pretty well all on its own. Smush that on there. You can use your flat modeling tool to smooth out that seam. Doesn't really need to be totally gone though, because we're going to put hair on, so don't worry too much about it. But always, you know, the cleaner the base is when you start, the better everything's going to look, right? Make sure everything's kind of smoothed out. And polish it with your hands so it's nice and smooth and glossy. Flatten the kind of lower chin area. And then indent with the finger here, indent on the other side. And we're going to take our smallest little sugar shaper with a little pointy tip, or you can use a toothpick. And you're just going to, see how there's this kind of line right here where the cheek is? We're just going to go up and pull out to make a little nose. If you need the nose to be a little bit bigger, go in with a toothpick. Kind of make the nostrils. Make sure you don't make the bridge too big because this is a little baby. Their noses are pretty small. And you can kind of define the nostrils with the side of the sugar shaper. Just kind of smooth out any lines. Just going to bring up that little nose a little bit more. Push down the bridge and bring up the, so it's like a, little turned up nose. You want the space that's in the center here, the bridge, you want it to be flat and flush with the eye area. So you don't want there to be any bridge in the center really. And then just push the nose up to the point where you can see like a triangle of shadow underneath. Fix your nostrils if you need to. Kind of went fast with mine. Should have went a little bit slower. Paid more attention to where I was doing it. But it'll be okay. There we go. See, we can fix it. So we've got our big cheeks. Avalon has very big cheeks. So that's something I want to accentuate, but really all babies kind of have big cheeks. So it's more of just a generic sort of like baby face, right? Big cheeks equals cute baby. A little baby, a little smile here. Just pulling the lip out. So you want the lips to be pulled out, but you want there to be like this line, where the cheeks are. Just soften that. So it's not like old man, lines, but I'm gonna put a little dot in each part there. See, got some cute little lips going on here. Go ahead and pull down some more, kind of hollowing out the center out more. And then we're just going to use our tool, whichever one you feel comfortable with, to just create a little lower lip. And we got a cute little mouth. And we can use one of our other ones to kind of smooth out the center. Maybe give a little bit of a chin, a little bit of a pointed chin, whatever you want. That's the basic, gist of putting in the features. So now you can just apply those same sort of techniques to different types of babies, or different types of children's faces, I should say. Okay, so now I want to put some cute little eyeballs, and I'm just going to make an indentation in the fondant of where I want the eyeballs to be. It's kind of a oval-y shape. There we go, very creepy looking. Just defining the eye socket area and the cheeks. I want the eyes to be kind of like almond shape. So I'm just gonna continue to press in with a little bit of the pointed tip to until I get a nice almond shape. Let me just get the inside wet a little bit. I've got some gum paste here. I'm going to just put some gum paste into the eye socket area until it's flush. And the reason I'm not using fondant is because I want this to dry pretty firm. I'm just going to use a ball tool to just smooth it out. Oh, this one's dry. I feel like I kind of messed up the eye. Don't want to lose that eyelid. I use my Dresden tool. This is a PME Dresden tool. It has kind of like this curved end to kind of push that eye into the spots that I want it to be. You can use your small sugar shaper to just define that eyelid again if you lost it a little bit while you're putting the eyeball in like I did. These really tiny tips are great for that. Just going to take a little water and smooth out the surface because I want these eyes to be real shiny. So if you have any roughness or anything, just buff it out. There we go. Got our eyes done. And at this point, I like to wait overnight to let the head firm up before I start doing hair. Otherwise, you can have the possibility of squishing the head. So give as much time as possible. I know we have the tin foil on the inside, but this outside is still pretty soft. So I'm just going to give the head some time to firm up. But I can put the arms on now. So I think I'm gonna have the hands be about this long. Don't want them to be too long because I want her to have cute little short arms. So to make an arm, you roll out some fondant. And you're going to define a wrist, flatten it out just a little. So we got kind of a thicker and then thin where the fingers are. I'm going to just cut a little square out. And 1, 2, 3. This one's a little bit too big. Make sure the fingers are all the same size. So got that. Don't make the fingers too big. They're baby fingers. Real small, tiny little finger. Yeah? And then with the thumb pointing out that way, bring this hand around. Basically, you're gonna imagine that there's a ball being cupped inside this hand. Holding invisible baseball. Just going to cup this hand around baseball. Just put a little like that. You have a hand. Measure about how long our hand needs to be. That long. Wet right here. We're going to very carefully skewer the hand onto the wire. Just kind of twist, 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 pushing gently. Twist, twist, twist. And you can get. You just don't want the arms to be too skinny because it's supposed to be a fat baby. And you can use pretty much any of your tools that you feel comfortable with to just smooth out the seam. Just a little bit of water on your hands. Because the body's been drying for a little bit, it should be firm enough to smooth that seam out. Just take some water if you need to, or some shortening would work. And just ever so slightly. A little indentation for the arm. One cute little baby arm. Like my neck got a little wonky. So I'm just gonna take a little piece of fondant and put it in there, smooth it out. A little neck patch. And you can do that. If there's ever any spots or anything that you feel like, oh, that's not quite perfect right there, you need a little bit more fondant in that spot, you can just take a little piece, put it on there, smooth it out, and it'll look good as new. Okay, you just gotta put a hand on the other one. Got our kind of soulless baby going on right now. Looks very creepy without any color in the eyes, but trust me, once we get the eyes and the hair on, it'll look really cute. Just gonna make some ears real quick. Simple ears. Just do a ball. Take a ball tool, go like that, and then you cut in half. And then sides, you can take an ear there. Getting the ears to line up is always a challenge. Too bad. Okay, so now we want to start making some of our details for the cake. And for that, for the shiny bits, I'm going to use some Sweetastic modeling chocolate, which you can get from our website, sweetastic.com. And it's pretty firm when it first comes out. I'm actually using black, which is made from just brown modeling chocolate with a little bit of black in it. So if you wanted to make your own, you totally could. Get some out and knead that up first. And for this, I'm going to work on a silicone mat, which kind of helps prevent sticking. You're also going to want a star cutter. So I got that. Roll out our modeling chocolate. Doesn't have to be super thin, but you don't want it to be super thick. I'd say shoot for 1/4 inch. I'm not going to worry about the bubbles or anything because it's not going to really matter for this design. I'm not going to even really care about it being smooth. I'm going to pop this into the fridge for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to take some of our leftover seafoam green color. I'm going to add a touch of sky blue to make it a little bit different than the background. I'm going to knead that in. Try not to get it all over my hands. I'm not going to really worry too much about it being perfectly kneaded together. Set this aside, covered for just a moment while we work with our chocolate. Working with chilled chocolate is always easier than trying to do it with freshly kneaded, as you might have noticed that it gets very soft. So this has been just chilling for about 5-10 minutes. It's a little bit easier to handle. And from this, I'm going to cut out 5 stars. And I want a nice oval shape. You could freehand this, or you can use the template that is provided in your printable materials. If you are a patron, it'll be in the PDF that I sent you, or it'll be on the templates page on sugargeekshow.com, or if you purchase this tutorial, it will be in the PDF that came when you downloaded it. Make sure you don't ever cut on top of your silicone mat or it will damage it. I don't really care about mine being perfect because I'm trying to make it sort of look natural, like hammered metal. So that's good for me. And then the fork, again, you can freehand if you feel comfortable, or you can use the template that is provided in your printable materials. This is where it's especially important to have chilled modeling chocolate, because otherwise this is a pain. If we did our job, Hopefully that just pops out of there. Pretty good. Pretty good. One little fudge right there. Release that. Just put that all back on our mat until we need it. Just kind of rounding out the tips a little bit, smoothing out any rough edges to a point, because, you know, like I said, not trying to get this to be perfect. We want it to look like metal. Maybe I'll smooth this one out. Being very careful not to cut too deeply so I don't cut my mat. In case you're like, Liz, you just said not to do that. I know, I know. Smooth out your rough spots on your stars. Whole design is based off of a bracelet that I saw on Pinterest. So it's important to always be looking at inspiration all around you. You never know where you're going to find it. Let's put this over here while I work on these guys. So for this bit, I actually like to use a fondant because it's a little bit easier to handle. Now, a good cheat to practice this part is print out the name that you want it to look like, either inside your oval or on a piece of paper, and then put a piece of tracing paper over the top of it and trace over it, then put it into the freezer until it's firm, and then you can transfer it. You could also do it with royal icing, whatever you feel is most comfortable, but I feel like this is the easiest for me. So what I'll just do is I'm just going to lightly draw out kind of Avalon's name, so I kind of know about A-V-A-L-O-N, so that I know about how to space it. I'm not trying to get it perfect just yet. And then I'm going to roll out a very thin piece of fondant. Adding a little bit of Tylose powder to this kind of helps it stay together. And it's basically the same concept you would do if you were piping something, except for that it's with fondant. I do a lot of my names this way because I don't like to take out a tip and a bag and all that to just do like a quick name. Oops, got to get a little wet here. Just a little bit of water. You don't want it to be wet per se. We're just trying to make the surface tacky. So just kind of rubbing some water on there till it gets tacky. And then we're just going to rock our cursive skills. A, V, A. You can see it's important to have very thin fondant, because you'll think, oh, this is thin enough. And then you'll start doing this and you're like, this is not thin enough. So if it's not thin enough, just start over, roll it out a little bit thinner, and go again. And just one little crossbar for the A. Move it around a little bit. A-V-A-L-O-N, right? And then I'm gonna put a border around the whole thing. I need a little bit more. Take a little piece of our fondant, make a loop like that, and a loop on the other side. I'm going to go all the way around. I'm not going to worry about that little seam right there. I could fuss with it and make sure that's all smoothed out, but I don't really worry about it too much. So there we got our little, doesn't look like brass yet, but it will be our brass plate. And then for our stars, I'm going to use a very small ball tool and just put some little polka dots in there. So I'm using Alan T. Trault's Edible Hybrid Luster Dust in copper, which is a beautiful, beautiful color. And he sells his colors on Global Sugar Art. Just gonna pour a little bit in here, load my brush up, and just brush that onto the surface. It's this beautiful kind of pinky gold color, which I just love. And the point is not to get it totally into all the crevices and everything. We're kind of leaving the dark areas dark. You could use Rolcom gold if you wanted to. You can use whatever kind of gold you want. And just to give this a little bit of definition and some highlights, I'm going to come back with my Rolcom gold and just put a few little highlights here and there, mostly on the edges, because that brings out the shine. It really kind of looks like that burnished look. You can see why that texture now is so important, and that we didn't want to get rid of it all, because that's what That's what the gold picks up on, is all that little texture and stuff. Love that kind of pinky gold showing through. This Rolcom gold is combined with Everclear, but you could combine it with like any kind of alcohol, like lemon extract, vodka, and it will work great. There we go. All of our little metal pieces are done. Now we can start assembling our cake. Okay, so for the bands and things that we're going to be putting around the cake, I'm going to be using something called an Ace Food Extruder. And this is actually made for clay, but it works great for fondant because it is made for pushing basically something that's very dense and stiff through the gun pretty easily. And it comes with a couple different tips that work great for what we're going to be doing. I'm going to use this one. It has like the 3 holes. They also make custom tips if you need them. So I'm going to take some of my fondant, roll this into a tube. And you can do this by hand. You can use like whatever extruder you have. I just really like this one because it's very easy on my hands and I have hand problems. So this works great for me. So now with very little effort, I just do this and it's going to start compressing the fondant. And pushing it out very, very easily. It's very easy on your hands. So you just put out as much as you need. And then for this, I'm just going to twist it. And it makes it into a rope. To apply to the cake, I'm just going to put a little bit of water down around the base. This is just going to hide our bottom seam. And I'm just going to twist as I go to put it on. It's an easy, easy way of making rope. Great for those nautical cakes. Just kind of hide that in the back. And I'm going to put it, it's going to go right here in the middle. The side's nice and tacky. Just bend that gently, kind of get it to wrap. I'm going to take our next one with the 5, unscrew our gun, and release the back. Use a stick or something to push out the end. New piece of our fondant. Actually, let's put our bit in first. And this goes in here. You don't have to use these same bits that I have. Like if you have different attachments and stuff that you like to use, go ahead and use those. Make whatever you think looks great. There we go. This one I'm just going to kind of leave a bit stringy. Just going to put that right behind there. And I'm just going to wrap it around kind of willy-nilly until we get to the other side. And you're going to take one little chunk of it and you're going to point the ends. You're going to put one inside there and wrap it around. Do the same thing to the other side. And then you're going to take another piece, and you're going to go like this. It's going to look like it's looped around. Just make sure you hide the ends. There we go. We could put our stars on if we wanted to. One star in the middle. One star here. One star here. Here, one star here. You can put those as close or as far away as you want. I kind of like mine spread out a little bit. All right, moving on. Again, making sure our cake is tacky a little bit further up. Put some more water. Just remember when you're putting water onto the outside of a cake, the idea is to make it sticky, tacky, not wet. If it's too wet, it's going to just slide down the cake. I'm gonna use the one with the 3 holes. This time I'm gonna go pretty light. Mostly ivory with a touch of blue. You can make your different ropes like lighter and darker if you want to by just adding in a little bit other colors of fondant, but I try to keep them kind of all in the same shade, right? So you're just adjusting the base color to kind of different shades of the same color. It's almost the same color as the background. It's got some swirls in it though. Put it in there. Oops. Broke, but it's okay. Okay, so for this one, it's important the way you twist. First one, I'm going to twist this way, going that way. I'm going to place that on. Starting in the back, wrap all the way around. And we're going to do the same thing, but twist in the opposite direction this time. Make sure that's pressed on there. Make sure we're still nice and tacky. And then this one, I'm going to twist this way. Opposite way. Hopefully that worked. So now you just line them up so that the twists are opposite to each other and it looks like a braid. Pretty cool. One more thing. Got our little fork. It's gonna go right here at the top. For this one, I'm just gonna keep it simple and just do a long skinny rope. This fork right on there, and our cake is done. Pretty cute, huh? Okay, I'm gonna pour a little bit of Everclear into a container and just a little bit of brown food coloring, and then I'm gonna do a touch of green because I'm trying to get hazel color. So I don't want a lot of color, just a little bit for her eyes. So now I'm gonna use a fine tipped brush and paint some nice big circles. And you can see this is pretty light. You can build up the color. That's what's nice about it. So we got our base coat on, and now we're going to build up some more color up towards the top, because we kind of want it to get darker at the top and then gets lighter as it goes down towards the bottom. It should dry pretty quick because of the Everclear. Kind of creates this beautiful watercolor look. I learned this from Angela Nino of the Painted Box. She does beautiful watercolor. So now I'm going to take some black, just straight out of the cap. You can loosen it up with a little bit of Everclear if you need to. And we're just going to paint a circle in the center. Make sure the black is touching the top of the eyelid or she'll look surprised. Not in a good way. You can see I'm resting my hand on the topper to kind of steady my painting hand. See? And add any more color if you need to. Also, don't forget the eyebrows. I'm just using a little bit of brown. Those look like Avalon eyebrows. So you could paint on the eyelashes if you wanted to, but I always like to kind of do eyelashes with fondant. I'm just going to get tops of the eyelids just a little bit wet and roll out just a real thin piece of black fondant. And then you cut it in half. And you pick it up with your X-Acto blade and you put the thinnest part in the front corner of the eye. And then you can smooth out. Got some pretty eyelashes. And then just take the other one, put it on the other side. Make sure that water to hold it all on there. Then I'm going to use something called confectioner's glaze. This is stuff that sugar artists use to put a shine on sugar. It gives a very high shine. You have to use a special thinner to get it out of your brush though. This looks like a good brush to not care about, or it'll ruin the brush. So either use a brush that you don't care about or make sure you get the thinner as well. I'm just gonna put a nice thick bit of glaze on her eye to give her some nice shine. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my ivory and I'm just gonna add a touch of electric pink to it to get a nice little pinky color. And I'm actually gonna add just a little bit of Tylose to this. because I'm going to do this for the tail and I want it to stiffen up. So I've just dipped my fondant into some Tylose powder just to get it to start stiffening up. Looks like bubble gum. I like that. And then we're just going to roll this out like this, kind of in that general shape. And we're going to take my new favorite tool, Sugar Shaper. We're going to put some nice lines in this guy. Okay, I'm just going to let that set for a little bit. Take some more ivory and touch of pink. Make her some little clam shells. Even though she's a baby, it's still cute. It's all about the cuteness. Just gonna make the front of her a little bit tacky. Take a little tiny piece of fondant. Take my little Sugar Shaper. Put 3 little lines. Actually 2 lines, but it makes 3. Put as many lines as you want, as you deem necessary to make a good looking clam. A little clamshell bra. And now we're going to put on her hair. Like I said, if she had long hair, you'd probably want to bulk up the hair ahead of time with the extra tinfoil, but Avalon doesn't have long hair yet. So I'm doing short hair. And she has some nice brown hair, so I'm going to take some more of my trusty ivory, add a little bit of brown, and I'm going to marble it so that she gets a little bit of highlight in her hair. So I'm just going to kind of leave it marbled like that. So we're going to do the hair in layers, basically. So you take some of your fondant and you attach it to the back of the head. Be careful you don't mess up the front of her face while you're doing this. Just be gentle. In fact, let's take a toothpick. We'll gently kind of poke that into the back of the head, top of the head, and it kind of helps you hold the head steady while you put on your texture. So I'm just using my Sugar Shapers to put in some lines for her hair. Make sure you go in natural lines, you know, to make it look like hair. Don't just go like this and like this. Like really try and follow the lines of the hair. I'm thinking about Avalon's, how her hair flows onto her head. I'm just adding little strips and then putting lines in. See how this flows over her ears, and then it flows down into the other hair that I put there. Alrighty. And Avalon's hair is kind of funny how hers sort of starts in the back and goes forward. She has sort of this natural pixie haircut. So after I kind of build up the back, I'm going to start bringing the hair forward to kind of mimic her pixie haircut. Well, not haircut, it's just the way her hair is. So take a kind of a bigger piece, attach it kind of in the back, and wrap it around her head like that. Cute little tendrils of hair. Cute. And since my Avalon is almost always wearing a headband, I'm gonna add that because that's what part of what kind of makes her her. I'm just indenting a spot to put a little band, and a little bit more, just a little bit more. I'm just gonna use the same pink that I used from before, flatten that down, and then you could put like a little shell in the hair or whatever you want, but I'm going to put a little star, a little fat star. I just quickly kind of mushed it out with my hands, and then I'm just going to put a little touch of gold on it. So because this mermaid is a little bit on the heavy side, we want to put a support in the cake. And we're just going to do that with the help of a straw. You can use a fat straw, whatever you want. Right here, straight down, measure the top with my thumb, trim it down just a little bit. This might be the perfect height. Push that there. Using some scissors to make sure she's really in there. So that helps secure her. I want her to be kind of standing straight up. And then I'm just gonna take a little bit of my blue modeling chocolate. And I'm gonna create a wedge, teardrop shaped wedge. And I'm just gonna put a couple little lines in here. We're basically trying to create something that looks like a wave, right? So it looks natural. Just lift her up just a little bit. And that's just gonna be a nice little kind of wedge for her to rest on. And it also looks cute. You can put some in the back too, just to make sure she's nice and secure. And that's gonna hold her very secure. So now we can put on her tail. I like to wait until everything's sort of on there before I put on anything that's too delicate. And that should just thread right on there. You can curl the tail a little bit if you want to. Pretty much good, just like that. So the last thing I'm gonna do is give Miss Avalon some little rosy cheeks and some rosy lips. And I am using cherry lips from Ruth Ricky, which you can buy from the Sugar Art. I'm just loading up kind of a scruffy old brush. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of color right on the front of her face here. And a little bit on the lips. Make sure you use a clean brush to do this or you'll mess up your pretty flawless face. There, now she's done. Just like that, our Avalon mermaid cake is complete. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial and that you learned a lot about modeling, and you can apply this knowledge to making other little cute toppers for your cakes. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching.